You gotta give me one thing. I'm a scary judge of talent.
Adolphus Washington back-to-back plays.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Triple Double Podcast. After a brief delay, we went out and got a marquee guest for you guys. We want to welcome back for a second appearance. We've got B. Snow. Brian, what's going on, brother?
Oh, I'm just here living the dream, Corey.
You're living the dream in the state of Indiana. It's playoff basketball time. I saw there was a game you went to the other day where like the winning team had like 25 points. So you're seeing some good stuff.
You know what's amazing is it wasn't even a slowdown game. There were 5 Division I players on the court. Just no one could make a shot. It was baffling.
Wow. I mean, 25 points is like if you put you, me, and Morrow on the court. That's not that bad. But 5 Division I players, that's not what you want.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, what is going on? But, you know, it is what it is.
It's Indiana. It's the basketball mecca. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. But real quick, before we start here, I just want to remind everybody, Brian Snow, national recruiting analyst for 24/7 Sports, longtime scouting service operator. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of hot buttons in college basketball, some of the things that are going on. But to be fair, in setting up this podcast, we had to think about one thing, which is a couple of days after flying, we'll just go back a step. At Flying to the Hoop, you spent a lot of time with your good friend, Corey Tucker. He came onto this podcast right after Flying to the Hoop. He took some shots at you. So you wanted to maybe say something back to Coach Tuck.
I mean, here's the first thing. For him to even compare his JV shoe game to what I bring to the table, it's like embarrassing to society. So I'm not even going to address that because it's so ridiculous. However, one thing that does need to be addressed. Coach Tuck and I were both in attendance for the Xavier-Villanova game last week, or whenever that was. Coach Tuck and I are sitting basically not right next to each other, but 15 feet from each other. I had been out with some buddies from high school the night before, and it was a long night. Let's leave it at that. All of a sudden, in the middle of the second half, the crowd's going bonkers. Xavier's on a run. I look over, and Coach Tuck is literally asleep. Asleep. And I text him. I'm like, "What is wrong with you? First of all, how do you sleep?" I mean, it's loud. Like the place is going bonkers. And as it turns out, he's too old. He can't handle it anymore. He can't go out and then be a human the next day. I think that's important to point out. One of us has toughness, and one of us is Corey Tucker.
Well, I think the thing to consider then that you might have just exposed is the sunglasses that he always has on. Maybe he's asleep more often than you realize.
It's possible. I mean, we can't count that out, but it's a severe lack of toughness that he showed. And I think the world needs to know he's just kind of soft.
Talk a big game, but can't back it up.
Can't back it up at all.
Interesting. Well, hey, God, I can't wait till Tuck hears this. So I think you deserve this opportunity because he came at you unwarranted. There was no conversation beforehand. Jason could say it. There was no conversation about that. He just took shots at you. So, you don't open your mouth if you can't handle the blowback.
No question.
There you go. So, well, cool. Well, let's talk about, speaking of toughness, let's talk about college basketball. Let's start off with the only thing that people are talking about in college basketball right now, which is the kid Zion Williamson. So everybody knows he got hurt, and there's all this crap, all this talk. Should he play? Should he not play? Does it affect his draft stock? This and that. Let me ask you this from your point of view, Snow. If, let's say, theoretically, he is deemed tomorrow to be 100% healthy to play for Duke, do you think it's in his best interest to continue playing for Duke?
Do I think it's in his best interest? Even I can only look at that from a financial perspective. And most people would say the answer is no, but the answer is actually yes. Because there's no greater opportunity to gain exposure in college basketball and raise your profile and have big moments, which in turn raises your endorsement deals and things of that nature than the NCAA tournament. So he has so much to gain, and he does have a lot to lose, but the odds of him gaining are so much greater than odds of him losing that from a pure financial perspective, I would say, yes, it's in his best interest to play. That said, it's his life. If he wants to play, play. If he doesn't want to play, don't. I'm not here to sit here and judge another human being on if they play basketball or not. That's totally their decision.
So my thing with the whole insurance side of it is, and I know he gets a couple million if he falls to like, is it like the 17th pick or something like that? If Zion Williamson tomorrow, God will, unfortunately, has to have both his legs amputated, he's still going to be a top 3 pick. So in terms of draft stock, come on. Yeah,
I mean, the draft stock, I mean, people like Kenyon Martin broke his leg. His leg snapped like a toothpick, and he was the number 1 pick in the draft. What would happen for Zion Williamson to not be the number 1 pick is it would have to be such a ridiculous injury like Sean Livingston had, what was it, maybe 20 years ago? And we really haven't seen it since on a basketball court where he literally tears everything in his leg apart. That's what would have to happen. The odds of him getting in a car and being in a car wreck and getting a more severe injury are greater than what would have to happen on a basketball court for him to lose $1. For him to lose $1. I mean, if he was a running back in football, different discussion. We've seen it happen before. It can happen easier. But on a basketball court, he could tear an ACL. He could break a leg. He's still the number 1 pick. No one's going to care.
And when you look at the basketball stuff, you see like Michael Porter Jr. last year at Missouri. Well, he had a couple injuries, and his injury is much more severe. But people are talking about this Zion thing like it's a life and death matter. I mean, it's not from what the public knows, and it might be deeper. It's not necessarily a major injury. But I think you made a good point, and I saw you had tweeted something like this where there's a lot of social media people, journalists, basketball writers that seem to have all the answers from a morality standpoint, from a amateurism standpoint, from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, financially is the only thing we can talk about with any degree of intelligence. Like, I hate imposing my morals on someone else. I refuse to do it. And I damn sure don't want someone else imposing their morals on me. And all these people trying to make this into some moral judgment issue and that their side of it is correct is ridiculous to me. The other thing I'd add with Michael Porter Jr., he didn't get injured playing basketball. He literally had a back condition, which is entirely different than something would happen with Zion. It's like, your back doesn't go from healthy to unhealthy overnight. That's not how it works. It would have to be, something that keeps happening and whatnot. So the Porter Jr. situation and the Zion situation are completely different. What actually hurt Michael Porter Jr. was playing when he wasn't healthy and not looking healthy. Had he not played in the NCAA tournament, I think he would have been drafted a little bit higher. That said, I know at least about 5-10 teams, they had totally taken him off their draft board because his medicals didn't check out. Zion's not going to have that no matter what happens. Like, his back is doesn't need surgery. It's not a problem. So while those situations might seem similar, they're actually very different.
Right. And you made a point earlier that I kind of skipped over, which is the success you can have in the NCAA tournament. And that's really the ultimate indicator and helps your draft stock. I mean, so Steph Curry, I think he left with his junior year. Steph Curry's junior year, they made what, the Sweet 16, Elite 8? It was the
Elite 8. Yeah.
I think it was the 8 too. But his shot making in the NCAA tournament is what really propelled him from like, oh, basketball people know who Steph Curry is, to everybody knows who Steph Curry is. Another one would be Carmelo Anthony. If you tell me Carmelo Anthony, what's his crowning moment, as great as he's been as an NBA individual player, it's, well, the guy led Syracuse to the national championship as a freshman. And, Zion has an opportunity to cement himself on a college legend status in terms of a single season, as those guys have in their respective schools.
And one thing to consider, I think, is how much money would it take from, let's say, FC Barcelona this year? Would it have made worth it to skip college for Zion Williamson? I would say at least $10 million, at least. So he's gained a lot this year. Now, none of that's to say you should play another second. If he doesn't want to, do you, man. But, like, he's gained a lot. He's made 8 figures this year minimum by playing his season at Duke. And now he doesn't have it right away, and there's a difference between liquid assets and projected income. I totally get that. But I think a notion that he hasn't made any money this year is kind of ridiculous.
Well, there's also the ridiculous factor, which is I follow the NBA draft, a little bit year round here and there, look at the websites. And before the Canadian tour was maybe August, before he got to campus, Zion was considered an NBA prospect, probably a lottery pick, but he was never considered the number 1 pick until really maybe after the first night of the season when they beat Kentucky by about 50.
Yeah, and Corey, as you know, because you're on the circuit, like, Zion's totally changed his body. If he was getting drafted in June, he would not have been drafted number 1. I mean, he's lost about 35 pounds. Even if he hasn't lost weight, he's certainly reshaped his body to a way that is totally different than what he would have been in June. So, it's just, he has gained a lot. And I think he's going to keep getting better. So the start he had at Duke was huge, and if he wants to finish it off, more power to him. If he wants to be an assistant coach for the next month, good for him as well.
The only other thing I want to talk about, and then we can get off Zion, but I think it's just an interesting perspective on where society is in sports and basketball. And I've talked often on this podcast about how we've got our Ohio scouting group chat, and in typical old school Kurt Stubbs fashion, he made a comment. We were talking about Zion, and he said, 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, but definitely 10 years or longer ago, if some kid gets hurt in this exact spot, there's probably never even a conversation in the public about is he going to play or not. It's just assumed that he is. And I think some people looking at it just from a black and white situation, not looking at the gray area in between, see this as a situation where values are shifting more from a team-oriented sport to an individual-oriented sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are a little bit more savvy now, too. I mean, you look at it, at the end of the day, like, these players should be getting paid. Like, the money's there. They should be getting paid. Let's call it what it is. But, and I think to sound like I'm actually hip and not a dorky old fat white guy, like, people are woke now to the situation, and they're trying to get it figured out. But, yeah, probably 10 years ago, like, people would be like, oh, you sprained your ankle. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Now it's like, whoa, let's take a look at the dollars and cents involved here.
Right, and it's a good point that that does come back to the amateurism issue, and if Zion's getting paid a wage, it's fair with what he brings into Duke, what he brings into NCAA basketball, what he brings into ACC revenue sharing. Then right, it would be an expectation that as soon as you're healthy, you need to get back on the court, but maybe that's not the case right now. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I saw an article someone had sent me with the same situation regarding Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback at Clemson, and people are saying that he should sit out 2 years, wait for the NFL draft, and this kid's not even injured. And to me, I know there's a lot of injuries in football, but like that seems like craziness.
Yeah, I mean, sitting out for 2 years does not help you. That's just ridiculous. And the endorsement deal Trevor Lawrence would get would not be worth sitting out 2 years. It's just not real. Yeah, football players don't sign that level of endorsement deal based on being good in college football. It's not. I think people are losing touch with reality. Like, I've seen on social media, again, I'm fully in the camp that players should be getting paid. Like, some people seem to think that, let's take Xavier in Cincinnati, for instance, that if these guys were allowed to do endorsement deals, that they'd have all these endorsement deals. Corey, you live in the city. I lived there for 25, 30 years. How many Bengals and Reds, who are infinitely more popular than either Xavier or Cincinnati, have endorsement deals? 4?
I would probably say under 4 right now.
Yeah. What
Oh,
makes
I know,
people
with Bengals
think?
plus Reds? Yeah, 4 probably.
Yeah. What makes people think these college kids are going to get big? I mean, it's just not founded in reality.
No, it's the coaches. It's the coaches that are going to get the endorsement deals
Yeah.
at the blue blood programs.
I mean, it's what it is. I mean, I think people just have this assumption that companies are going to throw dollars around to have, Johnny endorse their product when Johnny's star point guard, and it's not real. It's not how business works.
But when I see on social media, I just see the issue so simplified in paying players or not paying players, and it's not a simple issue because the NCAA and the way they work, they're going to want to try and make it about equality, and Zion Williamson's financial impact is not the same as the walk on that plays at South Dakota State.
As one high major coach in the Southeastern Conference said to me, he goes, "I got 13 guys. 10 of them are getting way more than they're worth just in their scholarship. But the problem is the 3 that aren't are getting screwed royally." And finding a way to solve that problem within the scope of the NCAA and how they operate in public institutions, it is a little bit tricky. That said, I think we try to make it a little bit more difficult than it really is. Like, the money's there. We can figure it out.
So what you're telling me the NCAA decided to do is say, we can't figure out how to protect the interests of our top players at the NCAA level. So what we're going to do is try and stick our heads into an issue, which is the high school basketball scene, so we can make decisions for them before they even get there.
It seems to be the way they focus things.
So how is all this going to work? I mean, April, I think, is going to flow smoothly because, it's one weekend versus 2, but there's not a whole lot of difference, And
to be fair, the reason it's 1 is simply because of the calendar.
Of course.
It had nothing to do with any of the changes. It's just that there's only 4 weekends instead of 5, and one's Easter, one's the Final Four, and one's a standardized testing weekend, all of which you're not allowed to have an open event. So that's just, it was going to be that way no matter what.
Right. So let's say it flows smoothly until June 1st. And
then it's a problem.
I mean, forget about the exposure aspect of it for the kids, but just logistically in terms of people, there's the factor of people not really wanting to be there. Is everybody going to play? How do you see this whole, there's also states that are saying that they are not sanctioning events. I mean, how is this thing going to play out this year?
I have no earthly idea, and I'm not sure anyone does. I mean, the reality is these states are not equipped to run these events. Like, a state tournament is a very different situation than a 3-4 day event where you're trying to get a whole bunch of teams and get the right kids matched up against each other, because it's about exposure for college coaches. And, then you got college coaches who are like, am I really going to travel 1,000 miles to watch one kid play against high school competition? Is that a good use of my time? And the answer is quite honestly, no. I've had one high major coach tell me, you are not going to see me out in June. No chance. He goes, it would be a waste of my time. So it's got disaster written all over it, but this is what happens when you have Condoleezza Rice and her crew parachuting in with absolutely no basis of knowledge of what they're doing.
And then you're putting these state athletic associations in a no-win situation. So if you're the Ohio Athletic Association, your job is to look at the best interests of all your schools, all your member schools. Your job is not to know who has the best players. So if you're hosting an event, you've got to invite damn near every team. And if somebody says they're coming and they pay the money associated, whatever that is, you can't realistically tell them no. It's not your job to match up the best kids. And now all you're doing is further diluting the event.
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be the problem, is you're going to have, guys like Paul McMillan the fourth being guarded by me and you. And who benefits?
I can't even guard Paul McMillan the third.
He's too damn big.
Yeah, he's a player.
He's got old man strength too. Like, screw that. I ain't trying to get hurt.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, though. Paul McMillan the fourth going to be guarding like guys like us.
Yeah, who benefits from that at all? Like, the coach isn't going to get a good valuation. Paul's not going to be challenged. I'm going to be embarrassed because I know I can't guard this dude. I'm not getting a scholarship out of it. I can guarantee you that. So who's this helping? And the answer is nobody. Literally, they've set up a system where no one benefits and only bad things can happen.
And then
just
you
don't
get
get it.
you get the confusion aspect in it. I'm sure you've been around this one in your years of covering basketball. Low major, mid major kid is they play a circuit game, they play a camp game, and John Calipari's there watching the guy they're playing against, and they say, "Well, John Calipari's at my game. He must be recruiting me now." You're just going to create more and more confusion as to where you had a nice defined system, which wasn't a perfect system, but you had a nice defined system in the past.
Yeah. I mean, there's never going to be a perfect recruiting system because it's an imperfect situation. I mean, it wasn't perfect 50 years ago, it wasn't perfect 20 years ago, and it wasn't perfect last year. But it finally was getting to the point where the coaches actually liked it, where everything was really organized for the most part. The only time it wasn't is in Vegas, and everyone's hung over there anyway, so no one really cares. And I mean, now it's just a total cluster, and it's filled with stuff that no one really wants to be in. And I don't see how that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And then there's the added dynamic that gives it more complexity, which is it's really a separate issue. It is a separate issue entirely, but it's going to be talked about, which is the FBI situation, how that affects NCAA eligibility, how that affects NCAA sanctions at some of these schools. There's a lot of stuff, probably being pushed by Adidas or Under Armour schools saying, well, Nike cheats as well. And what I wanted to see, you talked to a lot of college coaches with the situation with the FBI, NCAA scandals. Do you think that we've just hit the tip of the iceberg and it's just going to continue to blow up? Or do you think that we're slowly moving that to the rear window?
I think we're moving it to the rear view. Quite simply, the FBI is not going to continue spending millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to investigate college basketball recruiting and get nothing out of it when the general public has shown no real interest in the issue. And honestly, the general public has said more, "Why are you doing this?" as opposed to, "Oh my God, thanks for cleaning this up."
I mean, who were these bad guys that the NCAA got? Brian Bowen. I mean, however you feel one way or the other about the family and taking money and this and that. Do you think that Brian Bowen, the player, not the father, is what you would call a criminal that the FBI needs to be after?
No, and that's
no
the
one
thing
would
is
say
like,
that.
and I think no one would say like, "Hey, let's look at Book Richardson or Tony Bland." Like, you gave, and this didn't actually happen, people, so just understand that. But like, you gave a kid $10,000. Does anyone think that really makes them a criminal that should be in federal prison? No, like, it's ridiculous. So I just think now what's going to happen in this upcoming trial in April in terms of will Sean Miller, will Wade end up on the stand? Personally, I think it's 50-50 at absolute best that they do. To me, it's just difficult to see where this goes too much further and where much more comes out. Maybe someday someone will write a book. That day will not be soon, and that person will not be me. But, maybe one day a lot of stuff gets exposed. But here's the reality. Cheating in college recruiting has been happening for years. I mean, I've been told stories from guys who are, longtime high school coaches. Like, one's like, keep in mind, this is 1978, and I'm getting offered $100,000 for a kid. He's like, now I couldn't do it because I had to look myself in the mirror. But if anyone thinks that cheating is a new phenomenon, that they're greatly mistaken.
And if anybody thinks that cheating is a microcar, if it's a birth child of the shoe circuits, they're really, really wrong.
Yeah, out of your mind. And let's make something clear. The only way to stop cheating is to stop keeping score. As long as score is being kept, someone's going to try to cheat because they want to win.
That makes sense. And the NCAA, I think their role in it looking forward is more interesting than that of the FBI. I mean, the FBI, I know they're not going to hurt these guys. I mean, it's not a big enough deal. But if NCAA sanctions are to come down, I think that could be what leads to potential change. And right now, you look at some assistant coaches lost their job, and that's tough for guys. I know Book well, but unless head coaches are rapidly losing their job and it's happening all over the place, I don't think this thing goes any further.
And that's not going to happen because too many people would have things to lose. So no one's really just going to start turning in head coaches left and right.
But with the Condoleezza Rice changing things, I think one thing you've talked about, you just said that when you heard about this alleged cheating that happened in the late 70s, you said the high school coach. And now obviously things have changed the landscape. There's more quote unquote AAU travel coaches or handlers or aunt and uncle, grandpa, that gets involved. But still, there's still somebody. So when these coaches go out on the road this year, let's say the high major coaches are out in June looking at kids, they're going to maybe talk to the high school coach, but there's still going to be somebody else in that conversation when it comes time to recruit that kid, and changing the venue for where the game is played. If the kid's jersey has a high school jersey instead of a Nike EYBL jersey, that didn't change anything as far as how the recruiting conversation is eventually going to go.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, anyone who thinks parents aren't out here trying to get paid, they're out of their minds. I've had more than one coach tell me, man, I wish Condoleezza Rice would find a way to ban the fathers from the recruitments. I mean, at the end of the day, the parents always have control. Now, they might pass off that control to someone else, but they always have control. For instance, it's statute of limitations is up, Corey. Samaje Kristen, there was a guy in the city involved in his recruitment until the mother decided she no longer wanted him involved in his recruitment. At which point, his recruitment changed when it was just Samaje and his mother. So, things happen. The mom and the dad, they've always got control. Or who's ever the custodial parent always has control. Now, they might pass off that control to someone else, but it really doesn't matter who that person is, who the kid's playing for in June. That doesn't determine it. It's who the parent trusts.
And I honestly think that the NCAA in the past, 5 years, maybe 4 years, have been making positive steps in the right direction. And this is going to sound stupid. It's a minute thing, but the fact that they were having travel coaches join USA Basketball, and you have to watch those videos because I did them because I was coaching. And it's 3 hours of videos, and there's not a lot of great information.
Well, were you really coaching, or were you calling timeouts?
I was calling timeouts. I never really had more than 5 players at a time. Okay. We were so unorganized. I never had a sub. But but with those videos, they were a lot on amateurism, a lot on the ways to handle yourself, how to handle things. And, those things are far from perfect. And some people view it as a money grab. But I think the NCAA had the right idea in let's not try and dictate who these prospects associate with. Let's try and educate the people that the prospects associate with so that they're more versed on how the recruiting process works, what is and what is not allowed, and that's going to improve the product. I think that's a much better strategy than the way Condoleezza Rice tried to take it.
Yeah, it was they felt the need to make change, and I get that, but anytime you make change for the sake of change and not change to improve, usually you create more problems than already existed.
Right. Speaking of me coaching, did I ever tell you the Brian Thornton t-shirt story from last April?
Oh God, no.
So BT was at Ball State last year. He's no longer coaching in college basketball right now. And after this comment, I understand why. So that's my buddy. I know it's your buddy too, but we're playing. He comes out to watch a couple of our kids play at Dinos Trigonis' event. What is it called? Elevate Hoops in Indianapolis. He's there to watch 2 of our kids. We play our asses off, Snow. We play so well against a team from Chicago. We end up winning the game by 10 points. And our kids were wearing yellow Cincinnati Lakers t-shirts because Ricardo hadn't gotten the jersey order in on time. So I call BT after the game. I'm like, man, this kid played really well. This kid played really well. Hopefully you guys are going to get in there. I was like, what'd you think? And BT goes, what did I think? Corey, your kids were wearing t-shirts. So that's my coaching highlight. That's my coaching highlight story of 2000 and summer of 2018 is I couldn't even get my kids equipped in jerseys. That's how poor of a job I did.
Story checks out.
And then we lost a game. We lost a game the following day to Coach Dinos Trigonis, which you've said on Twitter before, maybe not exactly John Wooden.
Yeah, that's not good for your resume. Don't put that one on your resume.
He had a lot. He had some guys that were tall, and I didn't. So it happens. It happens. So let's Let's go the other way now. Let's talk about current college basketball. Things that are good or bad for the game. One thing that I think is bad for the game this year, 2018-2019 season, is nonstop talk about the officiating, constant reviews, flagrant one, flagrant two, reviewing things at the end of the game, slowing the game down. It's starting to look like football in the pace of the game.
Yeah, they have to do something about all these reviews, whether it's a coach can only challenge one thing in the final 2 minutes or whatever it may be. But like when we're spending 8 minutes to take 0.2 seconds off the clock, that's just not good. It's just dumb. Like the clock manages to function the first 18 minutes of each half just fine, yet we always seem to have to find a way to adjust it, in the final 2 minutes. So let's get rid of that. Also, when the ball's obviously off one team, do we really need to go to the monitor to find it? This is an overreaction to, in the NCAA tournament, probably about 5, 6, 7 years ago now. Miami's playing Illinois, and the ball was clearly off Miami with like a minute to go in a 3-point game. And they called it off Illinois, and there was no way to reverse the call, even though it was clear as day. And since then, as often happens with reviews, it got taken to an extreme to correct that issue, and now we have reviews left and right, and that just needs to stop.
But then there's also on social media, there's, Rex Chapman's really taking it to the next level, but there's the increased emphasis on block charge, which is annoying, and then this flagrant one, flagrant two.
We just need to get rid of block charge. Like, right. I'm in favor of just getting rid of the rule. Now I understand why people who have sons who are slower and less talented like the rule, because it rewards them for falling over and not actually having basketball ability. But at worst, I think secondary defenders should not be allowed to take charges. It's just dangerous, if nothing else. Last night when Nevada, I forget which Martin twin just dunked all over a Utah State player. It was dangerous for that Utah State player to slide over, and it was called a charge, which was just asinine. But it was a little dangerous play for that guy who took the charge and for whichever Martin twin jumped over him to have a human being in between him and the ground. And we need to get that out of the game. That's far more dangerous than the hook and holds that we're seeing left and right in the monitor reviews that come with those.
See, that's the one that gets me. I can deal with the block charge probably because I'm so used to going to GCL games and watching your boys at Moeller and LaSalle take them. But what I can't deal with is...
You are the problem, Corey Albertson.
I'm a huge part of the problem. I'm a huge part of the problem. But what I can't deal with is the hook and hold, two guys box each other out. Now we need 5 minutes to have a replay where there's probably not even a foul and somebody gets hit with a flagrant one. I can't do it.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, I feel like I watch basketball. I know the rules. I still couldn't tell you what a hook and hold is. I have no idea.
Well, I mean, I didn't think...
Like, I see guys that get their arms tangled up, and it's like, that's a flagrant. I'm like, well, how do you know who was flagrant fouling the other guy? I have no idea.
I've never heard you say you didn't know something. That's when you know there's a problem, NCAA. Beast knows as he doesn't know something.
Exactly.
Well, last one I want to ask you about NCAA, not a problem, but an annoyance of mine. We used to have the RPI. Now we've got the net. We've got this talk of quadrant 1 versus quadrant 2 wins and all these analytics. And you've got to have a statistics degree to understand who's going to make the NCAA tournament.
Well, I kind of like that. It's the beauty of it. We don't know before the bracket is announced, Corey.
Well, you said earlier you weren't a nerd, so I thought you would be on my side on this.
No, I said I was. But I was going to use a term that would make me seem less nerdy.
Oh, okay. I understand.
Pay attention to what I'm saying, Albertson.
I know. I got to listen. Well, I don't know their net wins and quadrant this and that. I don't know that crap, but who do you like in the NCAA tournament this year?
It's weird. I think Duke's the best team, but in a one and done scenario where they just don't make enough threes for me. So I have a hard time betting on Duke. I might go with Kentucky right now. And I also might go with Tennessee. It's interesting. I really don't know what direction to go. I'm going to look at the bracket and kind of figure it out, but I won't trust Virginia until they actually do it. Just don't think Duke shoots well enough. So maybe I'll go with Kentucky.
For the Ohio listeners and for the people in your area in Indiana, how do you see the Ohio and Indiana teams faring?
Purdue's got the best chance because they've got the best offense, and in general, offense wins in March. Indiana, if they get in, they can be dangerous. Obviously, Xavier's playing really well right now, but they're just not that good. Cincinnati, they've played well, and they're great defensively, and Jaron Cumberland's a stud. But they're just so susceptible to a shooting funk, to an 8-minute scoring drought, that I think the cap on how good they can be is the Sweet 16. So I don't anticipate long runs from anyone in either Indiana or Ohio, but there are some, between Cincinnati and Purdue, some intriguing squads.
And you left out Xavier. They can still get in.
Yeah, they could. I mean, I think they need to they got, Butler on Tuesday, and I think St. John's at home over the weekend. I think they have to win those two, and then probably one game in the Big East tournament. And, that's asking a team to win 10 in a row, obviously, or 8 in a row, or whatever the heck it would end up being. I was told there'd be no math. Is asking a lot, but, clearly they're playing their best basketball this season at the right time.
Okay. Well, I don't know what else is going on in your life here before we wrap this up. I do know, I did see on Twitter earlier, you guys are having a live announcement this week from Keon Brooks out of Indiana. Have you guys had one of those before?
March 15th is not this week.
Okay, well, there's no math. So is this your guys' first live announcement?
No, Anthony Edwards also announced live on CBS Sports HQ, and now Keon Brooks will be the second one. He's a combo forward out of Fort Wayne. He's down to Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan State, and North Carolina. Purdue also kind of in the mix. So that'll be exciting. It'll be March 15th at 8 p.m. on CBS Sports HQ. And Keon's a heck of a player, 5-star talent. Missed out on McDonald's All-American game. I think he was a snub, so to speak. But, it is what it is, and he's finally coming to his decision. And it's going to make one school very happy.
The thing about the McDonald's All-American game is people forget you don't want to have 30 kids on each team. And there's always going to be 1 or 2 kids that, probably get screwed. But some of the things I saw this year, this kid's ranked 80th in the country. He got screwed. Well, they only play one game, bud.
Yeah. The people on the West Coast were very fired up this year. Very fired up.
They're sensitive.
They are angry people out there, Corey.
But I'll give you some advice before the Keon Brooks decision. One guy who's going to be fired up, he's going to be in the weeds the whole time between now and the 15th, Jeff Rabjohns.
Rabby knows I've got this covered. Rabby has fallen in line.
He's going to want it. Rabjohns is going to want to know what's going on. He's going to have sources. So
he's an intense reporter.
Absolutely. No, that's what you got to be in the state of Indiana. I'll never forget. I always tell the story to AAU people of back in the day when you were allowed to play out on college campuses. I was with the Queen City Profits, and I had the 16 under group, and Ozzy had the 17 under group, and Darnell Flight Williams was the other coach, and we had Aaron Thomas, and we go play at IU at Assembly, and there's maybe 20, 25 Indiana fans cheering for Aaron because IU was recruiting him at the time. So if their fans can do that, it's going to take a hell of a lot of effort from somebody like Rabjohns to try and educate them as to what's happening next. No question.
The IU fans are a very intense breed.
No doubt about it. Well, hey, that's why they've adopted you into your state. One smart guy, and you're in charge of all of them, buddy.
No.
Always good to end on a positive note. So, well, let's wrap this thing up. It's Sunday night. I know you've got things to do. So, want to thank you for coming on. That was Brian Snow, 24/7 Sports. For Jason Morrow, I'm Corey Albertson. Be Snow. Thank you, sir.
Anytime.
This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to playeasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, Play Easy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at playeasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.